You'll have to forgive my hair. I just took a shower, so it's all sorts of, wet and eh. Um, so yeah, this video, I wanted to clarify, I wanted to really deep dive into my mentality when it came to bullies and why I have said what I've said in past videos. Um, Before I do that, though, I wanted to introduce someone. I finally got him cleaned. This is Mr. Moo Moo. I got him as a gift from someone who used to be my friend. I got him in high school, sophomore year of high school, I believe. I was around 15. Um, yeah, and I've kept him with me all this time. Uh, Sometimes I want that extra weight of comfort when I sleep, and so Mr. Moo Moo is definitely that extra weight. he's he's pretty hefty. Because I don't like weighted blankets. I don't, it's too much because weighted blankets are long and heavy. And even the shorter ones seem like too much space. So something that's weighted but isn't an actual weighted stuffed animal, like this isn't meant to be a weighted stuff. It's kind of like a pillow. Like he's pretty big. So yeah, anyway, that's Mr. Moo Moo. He's kind of one of my comfort stuffed animals. Finally, while I was cleaning, brought him out of storage and then finally cleaned him today. Um, Amazingly, I actually got all laundry and dishes done like a second time in recent weeks. That's insane. I don't know how I pulled that off. I'm probably going to want to sleep for like the next month or two. Like that's, uh, chores make me tired. But yeah. Anyway, now that I got that out of the way, um, I think it was because of a recent interaction that I'm actually going to deep dive into this. In other videos, I talk about how I will never apologize for never going after bullies in the past, but my wording may not be the best. I'm not sure how to explain it. I'm very bad at explaining verbally what I mean, and even worse, writing, especially if it's online. Um, what I mean by going after, I mean that I didn't seek them out and start something. It's that if I witness something going down, like an actual bully hurting someone, I stood between that person and the bully. I went after the bully. I zeroed in on the bully and I made sure they knew I saw them. I would call them out. They're not going to get away with what they're going to do. And if they wanted to still continue fighting, then I would match them blow for blow. I would go after them as in I would zero in on them. So my wording may not be the best. And recent interaction was just made me upset because the way that I see certain toxic people is they're bullying others. They're being harmful to others intentionally. And I don't stand for that. I will call them out and I will be very blunt about it. I will match their energy. I may not call for violence. I will match physically if I need to. Will I come out unscathed? No. And there's so many times when I was a kid that I did not get out of it unscathed. I had black eyes. I had scrapes. I'm amazed I didn't break bones that early in life. Okay. I really, I don't know how. Um, Most of the broken bones or fractures happened a little bit later after my time in California when I was a kid, because from kindergarten through fourth grade, I was in Tehachapi, California. Like and I went to that elementary school there. And back then in the early '90s, it was pretty rural. There was practically no development. There were a lot of open fields, a lot of desert that had not been developed. So all like I can look at where my old house is on the map now, and I see just tons of buildings everywhere. Like the nearest hospital, I think, was like an hour away when I was a kid. So it was pretty remote. And honestly, like my dad, like I was born in Thousand Oaks, but my dad moved to Tehachapi because it was the closest to Edwards Air Force Base where he was working as a contractor for Northrop slash excuse me, when it became like Northrop Grumman. So he'd be gone for long periods of time. Sometimes he would stay on base and not come home because of the work he had to do. Like there's no point in the long drive back, when he would have to be there the next day. So if he got some days off, then he would be home. But most of the time he's gone for days, sometimes weeks. And given the situation at home with my mom being pretty abusive, there was only so much I could take sometimes. There are typically two types of people that come out of abusive situations. Either they become abusers themselves, or they are very protective of others so that others are not abused. I am the latter. Honestly, even though I talked about violence and matching energy with bullies in the past as a kid, I felt physically ill and would cry afterwards because I do not like hurting people. I do not like it. And I'm always holding back, always holding back. I cried even when defending myself against my ex husband, okay? Because even though I had every right to, when he literally attacked me while I was pregnant with my youngest, like, and I defended myself, I still cried because I don't like hurting people. I don't. I will match energy. I will defend. I will stand in the way. But I don't like hurting others, even if it's warranted, even if it's in self defense. I do not like it. I know that it doesn't seem like that given the way that I've talked in the past, but that is how I am. That doesn't mean, even feeling that way, that doesn't mean I'm going to shirk any sort of responsibility that I feel to stand in the way. Honestly, I am personally angry that I cannot put my body on the line in a way that I want to for current events. It makes me angry. It makes me angry that I'm seeing things happen and I want to stand up and I want to scream and I want to stand there in front line and center and say, I will use my body to protect others. And I physically can't. And I'm in a position to where if anything happens to me in this state, my children will go to the non-custodial parent. It doesn't matter if he's been abusive. There is no laws protecting my children. We're stuck where we're at. So I have to think about my family and I have to be very careful about what I say and what I do because I'm in a position where I could lose everything if I misstep when it comes to certain things happening in the US. So I will talk about other topics. So I'm mad. I'm mad that I can't do the things that I want to do to protect others. But in the past, this mentality of going up against bullies, most of it was physical altercations because 8 out of 10 times I would try talking. Like 10 out of 10 times I tried talking to them first, but 8 out of 10 times they didn't care because they were going to do whatever they're going to do. A lot of the time, it was boys who knew they could get away with it because no adult was going to stand in the way, especially if they use the excuse like, oh, but I like her, so I'm messing with her. It didn't matter how much they hurt the little girl. The adults never did shit. They never stepped in. Boys will be boys, is what they always said. And I was so angry seeing other people hurt that had nothing, there's no reason for them to be hurt in any way. It wasn't okay. So I started stepping in. And I started getting in trouble for stepping in because I wasn't supposed to defend the other person. I wasn't supposed to defend myself because I was bullied too. But for me, I just didn't care. I didn't bother reporting it because the first time I tried to, it was brushed off completely. Like, oh, you must have done something to deserve it. Victim mentality, victim blaming, that mentality of victim blaming, like that shit has always been around. But I was like, you know what? Fine. You're not going to do something? I will. If I'm going to be the villain in your narrative, fine. But I'm going to do something. And that's the reason why I say I'm not going to apologize. I didn't like matching those blow for blow. I did not like physical violence. I didn't like any of that stuff. I didn't want to hurt anyone, but I wasn't going to stand by and let someone else be hurt. It was me standing up and using my body to defend someone else. That's what I did. And I got in trouble for it. Why is it that a bully will do shit, and if you defend yourself, you're the one that gets in trouble? It's 10 out of 10 times without fail. And it's still that way too, because that has happened to my kids. That has happened to my sons, where they were bullied at some point, and they're the ones that got in trouble. Now, there are times when, because of anger issues with my oldest, because he has PTSD from the shit that his father hurt him, in the past with. So he's unfortunately lashed out seemingly without provocation. It would be a kid who was egging him on or pushed him or something, and then he just went off on the kid. And so I've had to have those talks with him. I've had to be like, no, we're not going to start this shit. I've had to have those discussions with my son. But there were times when he literally was just walking or doing something and he was hurt, and he didn't even punch back or anything. He's literally just holding his hands up. He's literally just holding his arms up. And yet he's the one that got in trouble. So you better believe I went off on the school when that happened. You better believe I went off on them. Like, no, we are not doing this. We are not repeating history, because that seems to happen all the fucking time. If someone is a victim of bullying, then you better do shit about it. You better intervene. You better make sure that you are not blaming my son for simply defending himself, like literally not even hitting back, just trying to get away. And he's the one that got in trouble. He's the one that got some sort of demerit or saying that he should be suspended. No, I went off. There's no fucking way that you're going to get my kid in trouble for that. But when I was a kid, I was suspended all the time. My mom didn't care because she thought I deserved to be punished because, of course, she was an abusive person. My dad didn't know half the stuff that was going on. Half the times I was in trouble, he never found out about, because they would call my mom, because she was the stay-at-home mom and he was always away working. So, absent father because he's working, my mom always spending his money, so they're always in debt and cheating on him, and then being abusive to her kids behind closed doors that no one sees. And no one's going to believe me, because I was always the villain to a lot of people, because I fought back, because I made sure that the bullies knew, you do this, I'm going to match your energy. I'm going to make sure you know that you can't do this without a fight. And the reason why I felt it necessary to clarify this is because there's unfortunately a large amount of people on this planet that I've run into, like some of those people in this camp, that seem to think that it's okay to say, turn the other cheek or rise above that level. Don't stoop down to their level. The kind of people that say that shit are abusers and bullies and people who have never, ever gone through any kind of adversity in their life, where they have never had to deal with this kind of stuff up front. Because the last person who told me that literally followed up with, now I can't understand from your perspective because I've never gone through this myself before. And I was like, okay, stop talking. Shut your mouth right now. Because you're literally telling me that I have no business standing up to a bully, that I had no business standing up to a bully, because I was talking about what happened when I was a kid. And they were literally like, you should have just gone an adult. You shouldn't have intervened, because that's just going to make it worse. And I cannot stand that kind of outlook. I mean, you're going to have that outlook, fine. I can't change your mind, whatever you want to do that, fine. But do not lecture me and tell me that I shouldn't intervene. Do not tell me that my method is crude or just, not kosher. Don't lecture me. Don't go off on me and say that my method of dealing with this is wrong. And the fact that they told me that and then had to say, like, oh, I don't understand because I've never gone through this. I've never been bullied. I've never done this. Like, then you need to shut your mouth. Because I, along with many others, there are many different ways to deal with bullies. If those little assholes actually wanted to talk, I would talk with them. I always started out with a conversation. I always tried to talk first. They didn't want to listen. They didn't care. 8 out of the 10 times. Those 2 out of 10 times, I was able to talk them down and be like, dude, why are you doing this? What is the point? If you're upset about something, if you have something going on at home that you can't tell anyone, I completely understand. So let's get our anger out in another way, except, other than hurting people. So a couple, statistically speaking, because there's more than just 2 times, but statistically speaking, 2 out of the 10 times of, 100% of all the interactions with bullies I had as a kid, and some of them were grades above. So it wasn't just in my grade whenever it happened, but every fucking grade, like first, second, third, and fourth, like 4 fucking years that there was different like kids within different classes, and it wasn't a big school, but it still happened a lot more than it should have. Because sometimes if you defend people or you become known for defending people, there are going to be people who seek you out because they want to challenge you or they want to start shit. Yeah. But there were, statistically speaking, a couple times out of the 100, 20% out of the 100 that I was able to talk to them and be like, yo, what are you doing? Dude, this isn't cool. Let's find an alternative method of getting out this angst, okay? And they'd be like, okay, cool. And honestly, sometimes I became friends with them afterwards and they apologized, like literally apologized and tried to make it up to those people that they were bullying before. And we would have soccer matches because soccer was one of the things that we enjoyed playing all the time with each other, or baseball. So baseball and soccer were the two ones that, 2 sports that we played. We're also really big into the jungle gym. We're really big into like monkey bars and stuff like that. And so like we would interact with each other. But statistically, 80% of the time, they didn't care. Like, they weren't going to talk to me. They didn't care. They were going to do whatever they wanted to do, whether it was the right thing to do or not. So I said, all right, then I'm going to match that. But the whole people in the camp of like, turn the other cheek or violence isn't the answer. Like, yeah, I don't like violence either. But whether you like it or not, people are going to bring violence. People are going to do the things that they're going to do. So if you are capable of standing up, if you are capable of standing between another person and a victim, what are you going to do? So I stood up. I stood between those people. And I got in trouble for it, and I became the villain to a lot of the teachers because they're like, oh, she started something, or like, oh, you broke some kid's arm, you did this, you did that. Why am I not surprised? Like, they literally started it, but I made sure to finish it, and they never touched that person again. And there are some people who may think like, why should you be proud of that? I'm like, I'm proud of the fact that I stood up and did something. I'm proud of the fact that I spoke up, that I did something when the adults didn't. It should never have fallen on my shoulders or anyone's shoulders, but I chose to stand up. I chose to say, this is not okay. So I'm going to do something about it. And my method may be blunt and aggressive. You may not like that. Okay. You have another method that you want to use for something when it comes to bullies? Go ahead. But do not criticize me for my method. I'm not calling for violence or doxing people online. I will say, let people know who they are online. Like, this is the handle. This is the person who is saying this shit. I'm not going to hide names. Now, I'm not going to go and dox someone for, being an asshole online. Child predators are a different story. For example, that I will fully go behind. I will be like, no, they need to be known. You need to know where they are because they're child predators. Is you find out that someone has done something and they're talking about stuff or they're posting stuff online that's definitely not okay. Yeah, I will be 100% behind that of them being doxxed. I will not apologize for that. I, as a child, have been harmed in that way. So I am not going to be like, oh no, we should not know in those situations. Absolutely. They deserve worse. But we'll start there. But simply standing up to bullies, calling them out on their bullshit. The way I word things, the way I go about it, I do need a little bit of work on. Recently, I had a video where I went off and I was raging. And I just posted it. I was just so angry. But I decided to take it down. I'm like, no, me just simply raging, just practically incoherently, doesn't help anyone. But me calling people out, me specifically saying, this is not okay behavior, this is not cool. I may not be screaming, but I'm getting my point across. I'm calling people out. I am not going to hide and say, like, I'm just going to do this. No, I'm going to call people out. I'm going to say something about it. I'm going to continue to, because I'm going to stand up against bullies. I'm going to stand up against toxic people. I may not interact with people directly all the time. I don't do that on threads because I don't want the algorithm um to get them on my page. I don't. I don't want that. So even if someone says something really awful, I don't engage directly. I will screenshot. Like if someone's saying the R word, the N word, that's someone going after another person and really, threatening them or whatever. No, I will screenshot. I will not engage. I will screenshot. I will call them out. I will make sure that I'm blocking. If it's a certain amount of followers under like 30 or whatever, I'll block all those followers too. I have a method to all this. I have a way of doing this. And if someone else is saying a block party for something, I will repost too, and I will make sure that I screen grab, I screenshot. I make sure that I have those receipts. But I don't directly engage. Now, the recent interaction that prompted all of this was pretty upsetting because they acted like, I'm not saying that they've never gone through anything like this. They could have. I don't know this person personally. I don't know what they've been through in life, but the way they acted, the way they worded things seemed very much the like turn the other cheek and just be a good person in the shadows type of thing. Like they had never gone through bullies. Like, oh, doing this is just going to cause more issues. It's just going to further the conflict. This conflict that I am not going to say directly, but this conflict that they're talking about has already been furthered, is already escalated without any input from me or others. It has already gotten to a boiling point. So simply being quiet and showing support quietly is not good enough. You want to keep doing that, that's fine, but do not critique someone for being openly calling people out, for openly standing up to the bullies and the toxic people and saying, this shit needs to stop. Until it's none of us, it's all of us, right? Collectively. So they may or not have responded by now. I don't care. I'm not going to respond anymore to them. But I did say that. I'm just like, just because it's not what you do doesn't make it my method wrong. Like, I'm not calling for violence or doxing of these people, but I will call them out. This whole turn the other cheek mentality does not work. Bullies need to be like, they need to know you're going to stand up to them. You can't just be quiet. To me, this kind of mentality, the way that this person worded everything, it's like me seeing someone being hurt in front of me and doing nothing but shouting to them like, hey, I believe in you. I really care about you. Like, I'm so sorry you're going through this, but you got this, right? All the while they're being pummeled into the ground by this bully. Like, even if it's simply words and not, even if it's verbal and not physical for the kind of situation I'm talking about, mental health has taken its toll for some of these people that are being bullied and hurt. So bullies, I match their energy, but not because I'm trying to like tear them down or like break them to the point where, you know, their mental health is destroyed. No, I need them to know I'm not going to stand for that, and others need to let them know that they're not going to stand for that either. Simply sending silent report like support to people, that's all good and well. If you want to support the person that's being, hurt, and you don't want to openly stand up in that same way, that's fine. But do not stand in the way of others who will. Because I'm not going to bulldoze people over, but I will judge you and critique you for getting in my way. I will look at you and say, what the fuck are you doing? Why are you trying to stop me from being protective? And it's really hard, is very hard, my protective nature. And that autistic sense of justice really gets very high. It burns very brightly. And it's very hard to hold back and not go off a lot of the time. But in this instance, it's literally people acting like me standing up to bullies is like furthering the conflict. Like, so you want us to not stand up at all? You want us to literally not say or do anything at all? Because it's just going to get worse. It has already gotten worse. The kind of conflict that is happening has already gotten to that bullying point, has already gotten to that point that there's no return. They need to know that people do not stand for that behavior. So critiquing my method of standing up to bullies, that's not helping. That is not helping. The whole turn the other cheek mentality does not help the people being abused or bullied. It doesn't help in any way. It only increases the violence, whether it's verbal or physical, because you're literally telling people to ignore it and to try your method because it's quieter. I'm not a quiet person. I have already made myself too small for most of my life because of abusers and bullies. I've already had to suffer that. I will not let others do it. I will not let others suffer in silence. I will not let them be hurt when I can say something and do something and call people out. The way in which I word things, yes, I am trying to work on that. I admit that some of my wording in the past was not that great. I'm sorry. So I acknowledge that the way I word things is not perfect. And so I need to analyze the way I've said things in the past and be like, okay, where did the disconnect happen? That doesn't mean I'm going to stop calling people out. That doesn't mean I'm going to stop standing up for and protecting others in the way that I know can work. It may not work all the time, but that doesn't mean it doesn't work. When you actually put yourself on the line, when you actually stand up and say, this is not okay, and if there are enough voices that say this is not okay, collectively, it might turn the tables. Now, a lot of this is online, so yeah, it may not make much of a difference if it's online, but there are enough people that say, no, stop this. That's not necessarily fighting or infighting. And the way I worded it before was not correct. The past video especially, is that no, there has to be fighting. No, I meant it as there has to be fighting to protect, there has to be fighting to stand in the way of the bullies. I didn't know what else to say. I didn't know what other word to use. So I need to do better in that regard. But it's not fighting if someone is standing up for someone else. It's us standing in the way of the bullies and saying, no, you cannot do this. This is not acceptable. And we will not tolerate this kind of behavior. If you're going to do this, you need to get out. You are not welcome here. That's not fighting. That's us being protective. That's us standing in between and saying to the bullies, to the toxic people, you cannot do this with us around. We will not accept this. And enough of us standing up hopefully will make a difference. But the whole silent support, I mean, if you want to continue to support silently, that's fine. But do not critique or tell people that their method might be wrong or not fully realized, or however you want to see it as. Don't say that it's not okay what I'm doing, because I'm not being violent. I'm not asking for doxing. I'm not telling people that you have to like physically go after them. I'm literally saying you need to call people out. And I may be blunt and slightly aggressive when I do it. And I'm trying to find a better method, better way of expressing that. But I'm still going to call people out. And honestly, that started with me as a kid, is that I stood between the bully and the person, the victim, the person who was being hurt. So that's what I'm doing now. That is my mentality when I talk about that, and why I say I will not apologize for what I did to the bullies when they started it. I may not have thrown the first punch, but I stood between them and the victim, and I made sure the bullies knew that I was not going to take that lying down. I wasn't going to turn the other cheek. I was not going to let them get in a few punches and think that they can continue doing it. You may not agree with that method. You may not agree with handling bullies that way, because you know what? Sometimes even when you fight back, bullies will still come after you, or they might bring a bigger amount of people. There's no perfect way, unfortunately, because there can be people who want to hurt someone no matter what, and they will do whatever it takes. If that means that they have to bring other people to beat you down, they will. I've had to deal with that too. But I still got up and I still fought. I still stood between others and the bullies. And that's my mentality. That's how I see it. You may not agree with that, but I'm not just going to talk. If I can talk to people first, I will. If I can do that so it never resorts to that actual violence, fine. But sometimes, whether you like it or not, it comes for you. So are you going to put your body on the line? Are you actually going to do something about it? Because if not, then please get out of our way so that we can do what we need to do, what is necessary to protect those we care about. Sorry. If it's not like chapstick, then it's like Vaseline or Carmac, because my lips get really dry. Even now, I feel like I'm not explaining this very well. Like, there's going to be people who don't understand where I'm coming from, who don't understand because maybe they've never gone through bullies. Maybe they've never had toxic people come after them. Maybe they have been favorably seen in some sort of light their entire life. So, or they've never had to deal with challenges or adversity in such a way. If you haven't, that's good. Like, I do not want that on I do not wish that on anyone. But it is so incredibly upsetting and frustrating for people to kind of talk about that kind of stuff as if they understand and they don't. Because they really truly feel like, no, this is just going to cause more issues. This is going to, if we sit back and do nothing or don't say anything, it will get worse no matter what. So I'm choosing to use my energy in this way. I can't use it in the way I want to, where I want to, 24/7, but I will use it in this way, in this area. And honestly, there are many areas that I want to speak up about and just haven't. I think over time, it wasn't just that I started to bring up the courage to do it, but over time of doing these videos, I have learned that I really don't give a fuck anymore. I don't give a fuck if you like me or not. If you follow me, I'm not getting paid for any of this kind of stuff. I'm not getting followers for this. I don't care. What this started out with when it came to me and these videos and where I'm at now, I've definitely come full circle. There has been a lot of work done over the years to not just loving myself, but even liking myself as a person. But it's also learning and growing in a lot of different areas. But one of it is not giving a flying fuck what anyone thinks about me. Me doing things because it's the right thing to do, whether I'm going to get credit for it or not. There's so many things that I actually don't talk about in these videos that I do behind the scenes, that, or, donations I've made when I could have bought myself something. There's shit that I do and I don't talk about it because I'm not trying to get clout for it. I'm not trying to get people to like me for any particular thing. I'm just doing the thing because I feel it's the right thing to do. And I feel like it is necessary for someone to stand up and say something, especially in these kinds of situations. I'm not going to get recognition from the people that I am defending. I'm not going to ever meet those people. I don't know them personally. To me, that doesn't matter. And that's why I keep calling on others like, you're not going to ever meet these people. They're not going to know who you are personally. It doesn't matter. You should still stand up and say something. You should still stand up and do something. If you care about this, speak up, make your voice heard. Make sure that you are doing what you can to help that person, even if you may not get recognition for it. Because unfortunately, there are a lot of people who will do things or say things simply for the clout or simply because they want to be recognized. I don't care. I really don't. But I'm speaking up because it's the right thing to do. I'm doing things because I fully believe in that and because I do not want to see other people hurt. So that's literally it. So I don't fucking care if you like me or not personally. I don't fucking care if I lose followers for it. I mean, it's not like I have that many to begin with. Not even on like Threads or Blue Sky. There's a few hundred, but I mean, like, it's and maybe it's because of the interactions, but really, it's like I'm a small time account that I'm not like super famous or anything. I'm not getting like a whole bunch of stuff for this. And I don't care if I do, but I'm going to speak up. I have a voice, so I'm going to use it. But I'm tired of people trying to stand in my way and stand in the way of others and act like what we're doing is wrong for speaking up. Because situation's already bad enough, even when we don't say anything. So people can go off on that. People can be like, oh, you're just making it worse. No, actually, it was already really bad on its own. I'm just standing up and saying something because that's the right thing to do. You sending support in your way is fine. You doing that in your own way, great. But do not get in my way. Do not tell me that what I'm doing is wrong. Do not critique me or lecture me or anyone else who's speaking up and making it known that this is not okay behavior for what is happening. Because we're standing up to the bullies and we're making it known that we do not accept this. Let us do it. So get out of our way so that we can actually protect and be there for the people that we're trying to protect. It's just very frustrating for me when people are like that. Again, I don't know that person personally, the recent one who I had an interaction with that acted like this, but that kind of mentality doesn't help anyone. The one where you're saying like don't try to cause trouble, just be quiet about it. Things don't happen when it's silent. Things happen when people actually stand up and speak up, when they're actually doing something. Kind of like what's been happening recently in the US. Even if the main media is not saying it, things are happening. People are actually using their voices. Is it perfect? No. But they're actually getting out and using their voices. And I really wish I could join them in that way, and I can't. But there are other people who can, and they're doing it. And I'm really happy about that. I'm really happy that they're using that voice, they're using their bodies to actually do something. And there's a long road. This isn't over. Like what's happening, there's a long road when it comes to that. But people are still doing it. So this is just another way of someone speaking up and speaking out against things. So don't get in the way, please. Let us do this. And don't critique us about it either. It may not be your method, but that doesn't make it a wrong method. People may not have liked my method when it came to the bullies when I was a kid. You can have all the opinions you want when it comes to the whole violence thing or me matching energy physically. But honestly, I was used to being a punching bag already. That's the sad truth. I was already used to being abused and being hurt constantly. So honestly, one more bruise didn't matter to me because it just meant that someone else was protected and they didn't have to have that bruise. That's the kind of person, that is the mentality I have. If I can stand up for someone, if I can stand between someone and another person, I will do it. And I'm going to get hurt, but I'm still going to do it. I already knew that I was going to get hurt as a kid. I already knew what was happening, what was coming, and I still did it anyway. Because that's how I feel. That's how strongly I feel about it. And that is the mentality I'm having with everything that's happening recently, including what I spoke of in the last video. But I really need people to understand that it's not okay. Certain behaviors is not okay. It may be slightly different, and definitely I need to learn how to word things a bit better and explain things a bit better. But I'm still going to speak up. I just have to choose my words a little bit more carefully. It's kind of hard, especially when you're emotional, that when you really want to rage. So I will have to critically think about how I want to word things and how I use the voice that I have, because words do carry power. So yeah, that's my responsibility on how I bring this fight to others. And by fight, I mean speaking up against bullies and toxicity. So I will have to be careful with that. But that doesn't mean I'm going to stop doing it. And so I'm just telling people that this is how I feel. This is what I think of. Um, Honestly, if I could talk things out with people instead of anything else, that'd be great. But also, if you see the kind of things that are happening in the US, you know that there, at some point, there is no talking. There is no talking. No matter what you say, no matter how much you try to reach the other person, they're not going to change in any way. They aren't. I don't say that people should go out and like start shit, but I'm tired of people talking about not doing something at all. Or you should always talk and not stand in the way of. Like, people talk about not stooping down to a level or whatever. There are no more levels when the field has been decimated. There's no lower or higher level anymore. There isn't. So you need to decide how you're going to react or how you're going to meet this. If you don't want to do something, if you don't want to get in the front lines, fine. Just please don't stand in the way of those of us who want to. Okay? So that's what I have to say about that. I'm very exhausted just because I've been carrying these emotions since I was a child. I have felt this way when it came to bullies and toxic people and abusers since I was a child. No matter how many times I try to explain it in whichever way, there's always someone who has to tear it down and be like, well, that's not the proper way. What is the proper way? You don't like my method, fine. But there's nothing wrong with what I'm doing. Not overall. I mean, yes, the way I word things, I need to work on that. Yes, I acknowledge that. But me standing up entirely against people who are toxic or abusive, what is wrong with actually standing up and saying something? I mean, literally, what is wrong with that? But people act like doing so causes division or hurts. I'm like, I, If you don't want to stand up, fine. If you don't want to use your voice in that way, fine. I think maybe that's what galvanized this mentality when it came to online with threads, why I've actually interacted so hardcore the last year or so. Because I really was tired of being quiet. I was really tired of being silent. I was really tired of seeing people hurt and no one speaking up about it. So I'm like, no, I'm going to. If I have this voice, do you know how many people don't have a voice anymore? I can't speak directly for them. But if I have a voice, I need to use it. It just makes me so angry when people try to get in the way of that. And the whole so and so is going to get hurt no matter what. If they're going to get hurt no matter what, then I might as well still use my voice to call out the BS behavior. If they're going to be upset no matter what, don't you think it's okay if I still speak up and say something instead of being quiet? At some point, people are standing in their own way of any kind of progress or growth. People are standing in their own way of doing something that could benefit others. Especially when you are going off of the assumption that no matter what happens, someone's going to feel upset by the situation. Well, if they're going to be upset no matter what, then I might as well still use my voice, and others might as well still use their voice. Because the alternative is none of us using our voices. And then those toxic, horrible people continue to bully and verbally abuse the people that we're standing up for. Are you okay with that? Are you okay with seriously like standing by and not saying anything? If they're going to be upset by the situation no matter what does it matter if we're actually standing up in their defense? I fail to see the logic in this because it literally is a turn the other cheek kind of mentality. And I've already gone off about that. I've already discussed why I think that is awful and shouldn't be used in any way. Because you're not helping someone when you do that, when you look the other way. You it literally is just an excuse to me. It literally feels like an excuse to me where you're saying that you know, if someone's going to be upset no matter what, like we shouldn't do this. We should do it this way. I really just want to say fuck that. Why are you making excuses? Why are you acting like your way is the only way to support someone? I'm not going to be silent. And I know so many others who aren't going to be silent about certain things that are happening. We're going to use our voices and we're going to defend those we care about. The method in which we deliver those words, yeah, that matters. Again, I acknowledge that I may not have explained anything as succinctly as I wished. Um, and maybe the message didn't get across quite as well. So I have to be more cognizant of that. I get that. So I do agree that the delivery of certain words needs work on my part and maybe other people's too. But that doesn't mean I'm going to stop speaking entirely. It just feels like constantly hearing excuses from people about why we shouldn't do anything. And that's why I said it makes me feel like it is that turning the other cheek thing. In my experience, the only people who have ever said that to me are people who are advocating for the violence to continue. You need to forgive. You need to do, no, I do not need to forgive anything. I do not need to. You want to forgive certain behavior? Fine. Do not put that on anyone else, especially those who have gone through abuse, especially those who have gone through stuff. That's literally, I had people that I used to be friends with. I'm no longer friends with them, and I can't stomach the idea of ever speaking to them again because they said those kind of things to me. Knowing my past, knowing what I've gone through, and you need to forgive this person. No, I don't. I do not need to do anything. I've been the victim of something that was not my fault. I do not need to forgive anything. I'm not saving my soul by doing it. I'm not really, no. I'm not going to forgive. I'm not going to forget, but I'm not losing sleep over it because that is guilt. The way that you are framing this is that I should feel guilty for not forgiving them. Some things are not forgivable. Some things will never be forgivable. People need to accept that. They need to accept that not everyone's going to forgive their abuser because some things are not forgivable. Stop putting that on the victim to do that. It's that same mentality I see whenever it comes to the turn the other cheek or we should do it this way because that way is just too much. Too much? It's literally just standing up and speaking out against something. That's too much. If I were to literally physically go after someone or dox them, that's too much. Me speaking up and saying this behavior is not all right in any way, that's not too much. That's literally, I'm just literally standing up against bullies. I'm literally saying this is not okay behavior. I'm doing the bare minimum. I'm doing the bare minimum. Just so angry and so upset with how people continue to frame stuff or how they continue to excuse behaviors or how they critique or shame or guilt others for not doing something exactly like they do or acting like they have some sort of moral superiority because of their method of doing something. I'm so exhausted by that. I don't know how they're not exhausted by that. Like, it takes a certain amount of energy to really push that. And honestly, I'm not sure. I debate sometimes whether I want to speak to anyone at all, ever, because of things like this. Because it doesn't matter how many times I explain it, it doesn't matter how many times I go through this. People just don't seem to understand. They don't want to comprehend. It's not just that they don't understand, maybe because they've never gone through it, but people will double down or act like what I'm saying is a travesty. Like they do not want to comprehend any other viewpoint but theirs. And I can get people wanting to avoid certain activities or certain words. They don't want to get in the middle of conflict or drama. I understand that. I really do. But telling people, policing how someone stands up against bullies, that is not okay. Policing others who are trying the bare minimum to help someone else, that's not okay. I really feel that's not okay. But it keeps happening. It's very frustrating and very upsetting because this keeps repeating itself. I've gone through this time and again, and there have been points in my life where I literally had to cut people out completely. People that I thought were friends, even blood relatives, because they were like this. Because they did not want in any way to comprehend or accept something other than their viewpoint. Literally, because, and they would literally do the victim blaming. They would literally make any excuse possible to to protect their viewpoint. And I'm tired of it. I'm exhausted and I'm angry that there are that many people in this world who think that kind of behavior is okay as well. And it's not. I fully believe it's not. And I don't know where to go from here on this because literally, no matter what I do or say, there are going to be so many people who will not accept my experiences fueling my method of interaction with others, especially when it comes to bullies and toxic people and abusers. Like, why are you trying to stop me from standing up against them? Why are you trying to stop people calling others out? Why? Why can you not be okay with this? Why do you have to stop anyone from doing something about a horrible conflict? That's not helping anyone at all. It reminds me of some of the people in my country. They don't want progress or growth. They want a comfort level, and they want to excuse that comfort level, and they want to benefit from it. They like that status quo and they want to keep that status quo. And if it means hurting others in the process to keep that status quo, then they'll do it. So that's the kind of mentality that I see. That is what this reminds me of, is that you want to keep a certain status quo. You don't want anything to help others. You literally feel like your method is the only method of doing things, and you will fight on it. So it wasn't just one person that was acting like this. There was multiple others. That was just the one that I interacted with directly. But seeing other people echo that was really frustrating and sad too. That between being silent and speaking up, I'm going to speak up. I have earned that right for all the years that I was made small and made silent, for all the years that people I cared about were made small and silent, for people I don't even know who were made small and silent, who don't have voices anymore. I and many others have earned the right to speak up, so we're going to. But it's exhausting too. I'm going to acknowledge that. That doesn't mean I'll stop, but I'm going to acknowledge that it's exhausting. It's exhausting that so many people stand in that way and ridicule and critique and lecture and try to demoralize and shame and guilt for speaking up. Because there are some people who literally said, don't cause any more trouble, don't say anything. They went a step further than the person that I interacted with. And it's like, are you kidding me? Then if we're going to be quiet, then we're letting people be bullied and hurt on purpose. We are knowingly letting people do bad things and say bad things. You're okay with that? And it's exhausting how often and how many people do that and say that kind of stuff. I think at this point, it's a sort of quiet rage inside. There are times when I've yelled, when I've been upset and angry, and I let it known. I think it's morphed now into disappointment. That there are so many people who claim to be part of a collective or a community that talk a good game about being supportive of someone or someone's, and yet you have the audacity to say that nothing should be done. I'm very disappointed in you. And I know that's not going to be a lot coming from me because you don't even know me. because you don't even know who I am. Like, you don't have to even care. But I'm disappointed in you. I'm disappointed in the fact that you think staying silent is best, that not speaking up is best, or that speaking up is going to cause more conflict. I'm incredibly angry and disappointed with those people. You talk a good game about being supportive and loving, and yet when push comes to shove, you literally walk away. You literally stand by and say that nothing should be done.